So we're here today with Mr. Barney Rodgers. Barney, I want to thank you for being here with us today. And what we're going to do today is we're just going to talk about kind of your faith and your journey. So if you could take us back to the beginning, how did Barney become a follower of Christ?
Well, I first accepted Christ at the age of 11 years old. My father and myself was moving to a different part of the country, and one of the churchgoers, and a lady I respected fairly decently, said, "Barney, you need to accept Christ because you don't know when you're going. You're going to go on a long journey." And at that time in the 50s, wrecks happened constantly, and well, they still do. But said, if you don't accept Christ, you'll be in hell for the rest of your life. Even though you're dead, you'll still be in hell. And I said, you don't want to be there. And I thought about it for probably 1 or 2 weeks. And I decided that I need to accept Christ. And I did. And then when I got older in the service and stuff, I lost my faith in Christ and God. I wasn't saying that they didn't exist. I was agnostic. I said they're there, but they don't give a dang. And well, it took me a few years to figure out they did give. It's up to the people to control themselves and try to live in God's and Christ's ways. And
so real quick, for somebody who may not understand that, what did it look like when you walked away from your faith? Was it something that you thought about ahead of time?
I just saw that, all the bad things happening in the world at that time. I was Vietnam and the wars and stuff. I says, how can Christ and God let this happen? Well, they're not letting it happen. They're letting the people can do their own thing and trying to lead them the right way. And they give it out there for them. And it's up to them to accept it. And to try to do right. And some people just don't want to do right. That's all there is to it. But it just, until, I don't know, I guess, really until, like I said, I never thought that there was not a God or not a Jesus Christ. I knew that they was there. They just didn't care what I did, or they let me do things that I am ashamed of nowadays. And it just took me a while to figure out that it was me that was causing it, not them. And my life finally got straightened out. I have a beautiful wife and family, and they've stayed with me through the thick and thin, and God has protected me so many times and kept me here for a reason. I don't know the reason. I hope I figure it out one of these days. But if I can lead somebody to Christ and get them to understand that He's there for them and will protect them, and all they got to do is accept Him and try to do His ways. And it's hard, but people can do it, and all they got to do is accept. And like I said, and I know the power of prayer. I know when I have these accidents that I've had, and my wife was going to church here, I wasn't, and I know she talked to the people and they prayed for me, and Christ has kept me here. I mean, there's just people prayed for me, and the things that have happened to me, I put it down to luck, but I'll tell you what, God made that luck. God and Jesus Christ made that luck and kept me here. And it's wonderful. It really is.
So let me ask, for somebody who doesn't know about your accidents, can you let us in on kind of what those accidents were?
Okay. Well, major accidents I've had. I've went through several falls. One of them 65 feet. I ended up with a broken arm or a broken wrist and a broken neck. I came through that, I can't say unscathed, but I healed quickly. I have no permanent damage from it. The doctors told me that within most people when my neck was broke, that most people within 3 to 4 years ended up having to have their neck fused. Well, mine isn't fused. I'd have perfectly, nearly complete mobility in my neck. My wrist is healed. And then I had that fall in 1987. And then in '07, I had about a 12, 15 foot fall. Broke my elbow and my ankle. I have nearly full mobility still with them. I had a wonderful doctor that knew exactly what to do and how to do it. And then I had an accident in 2013. I caved my head in, fell about 8 foot into the concrete. Well, I had some more wonderful doctors, and God led their hands right. And I'd say at least 99% healed from it. And it's just fantastic. And especially after this last one, when I caved my head in and they had to, and I mean, people has fell and died from tripping on the floor. I fell 8 feet and put my head into the concrete. And here I am still. And it's not luck. It's God looking out for me.
So what does that tell you about that kind of God that we serve, that despite all of that, he still has you here for a specific purpose?
And that's it. There's some people make it through, and even the ones that end up dying from their disease and stuff, God lets them lead people, and when it's time for them to go, it's time to go. And most of them, my father, the man I call my father, who adopted me when I was 4 years old, he had so many accidents when he was in a construction work, and he kept alive, and he became a Baptist preacher, ordained and licensed Baptist preacher, and he led me, and we had our family problems like everybody, but he showed me the way, and sometimes, I bucked him again and didn't believe it, but nowadays, I know he helped me stay there and get me back, even though he died several years ago. It still brought me back to where I need to be. And it's hard for people sometimes to accept, and I realize that. And I don't know where to come from here. I'm not much of a talker usually, and but I've rode motorbikes from the time I was 13. I've wrecked nearly every one of them I ever rode. But the worst I ever got was some few scrapes. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me how, but that's all that happened. God looked out for me there. And I'm so much into God and Jesus Christ nowadays, and it's hard for me to look back and say, you used to be the dummy. And that's the way I feel like about it. I was the dummy.
So let me ask about that. So knowing what you know now and believing wholeheartedly what you believe now,
Yeah.
if you were to talk to yourself when you became agnostic in the service, what would you say to yourself back then?
I would say that I need to square my tail in away. It's that simple. Because it was me. Nobody else. I was following the wrong things and the wrong thoughts. And I knew I was doing wrong 99% of the time. And I'd say, no, this is better for you, when it wasn't. And that's what you got to think about. You got to think about, is it the right thing for you and for other people that you're involving? And you can't do that. You've got to stay with the faith and understand that it's your fault if things go wrong 99% of the time. It's that simple.
So let me ask a very, very broad question.
Okay.
What does faith mean to you?
It means doing mostly what you can for your fellow man and trying to stay in the ways of Jesus Christ and the Lord. It's not your personal gain or wants. It's what you can do mostly for other people and try to do good. And like I said, I'm not much of a speaker, but in fact, funny story, after we had moved from New Mexico, where I grew up, and we came back, and that was when I was in the 9th grade, and I took speech class. Well, the first thing you had to do as speech teacher had you get up and give an autobiography of yourself. Well, I got up there in front of the class. Now, most of these kids, I didn't know them because I had moved away, and so I didn't grow up with them. And I got up there, and the first thing I said is, my name is, and I completely forgot my name. I said, I don't know how many times I said, my name is, and finally I had to look down at my paper to see what my name was, because my mind went blank. And we did our things, and I passed the class, but the teacher realized I was not a public speaker.
You know, that is, funny enough, the number one fear that most people have is public speaking.
That is one thing I do.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have many fears, but that is one of them I do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, even though all the falls I've had, it still doesn't bother me to climb up on a ladder.
Really?
Now, I remember the one where I had the 65-foot fall. After I got out of the hospital, and I lived in a 2-story apartment, or I lived on a 2nd floor of an apartment building. There was a little balcony, and I tried to walk outside, and I ended up with a death grip on the balcony because I was so scared. And it took me probably 5-10 minutes to finally realize, hey, you're not falling, and to let go and walk off that balcony. And I kept that fear of falling for probably at least a couple of years, and I finally got over it. God led me, showed, hey, I'm still protecting you. I protected you from that, I'm still protecting you. And nowadays, well, I can go out there and look over that balcony, and it ain't going to scare me. Because I know I'm not just going to fall, you know. And that's the way, like I said, I've wrecked nearly every motorcycle I've got. And until this last accident, I lost my balance a little bit. I still rode. I finally said, well, I haven't got the balance I had before, and I accept that. But it's wonder. It's a wonder every time I think about it that God has protected me for so long. And I can't thank God enough for the life I have nowadays. I have wonderful children. I have wonderful stepchildren, a great wife. We're not going to discuss my other marriages, but this one it took me a while to find one that likes me and loves me, and I like to do the best I can for her, and I try. I don't do it all the time. I know everybody steps out of line, but we try to keep her going, and we do pretty dang good, in my opinion.
You got a very, very special lady there.
I do. I think so too.
So let me ask, kind of actually to that point. So she was coming to church here at Freedom, but you weren't.
No.
When you had your accident. The fact that this church and a lot of people along with Sharon were praying for you, what did that tell you about this church?
It told me that it was something special, and there was these people in this church had a connection with God and with Jesus Christ. And that connection helped heal me and keep me going. And it just enlightened me that I made it through the way I did, and still I might not kick as hard as I used to, but I can still kick. It's that simple. And I can do it because of Jesus Christ and the Lord.
So what did that tell you about how important prayer is?
I consider it probably one of the strongest things in God and Jesus Christ's relationship with the human race. It gets their attention, and it shows how much people respect and want and help from Jesus Christ, and it enlightens the human race. And I don't know what else to say.
No, that's all right. So let me ask this: what finally got you in these doors?
Well, believe it or not, it's the wife was leaving every morning, on Sunday morning, coming to different functions and stuff, and I said, and then I decided, well, I'm going to go with her. And I came in these doors, and I was greeted, like a long-lost son. And everybody treated me great, and I enjoyed the messages coming out, and it was an enjoyable time. And so I started coming full time, and then they was asking me if I'd do this or help out there and there and there, and I said, well, I can handle that, no problem. I'd be glad to help. And I figured out that it did enlighten. It made me feel good about myself to be able to help these people in this church, and it made me closer to my wife, that we was doing something together. Mm-hmm. And it brought joy and made me feel good. That's all there is to it. I mean, I've like I said, I've been close. I almost went the wrong way, but I stayed. Like I said, I was an agnostic, but I knew there was still a God there. And I knew there was a Jesus Christ that died for us. But it's so easy to get to listen to that devil and say, hey, well, we'll give this a try. Well, that ain't the way it works. Mm-hmm. And it took a while to get me back and get me straightened out. And I'm definitely straight now. I feel good about myself, and I still wonder sometimes, knowing what I've done and how I did, how God can forgive me and keep me here, but He did. And if I can help people and lead people to Christ, I'll be glad to. Hopefully I can do it and feel proud about it.
You're part of the Friday morning group of men that are up
Yes,
here.
I am.
Why is that group important to you?
It's a bunch of men, not very many, but a bunch, and we get together and we talk amongst ourselves. We talk about things that's happening to us with Christ, how we're doing, who we need to pray for, and we have a good prayer session. And I think it helps with the people that we pray for. I really do. And it's so good to have camaraderie that we have. And we talk about all different kinds of things, but we have a prayer session and we read the Bible and we discuss what we read and how we feel about it, and it's just wonderful to have that. I've been an old military fellow. I tell you, that camaraderie makes a lot of difference, and it's like that with anybody. If you got interest, if you can get a group of people with the same interest, it makes it such a better grouping. And I remember Dan Fleming, he's the one that actually got me going to the Friday morning. He told me one morning, he says, Barney, you need to come to our Friday morning men's session, see what it's like. And I sloughed it off for a couple of weeks, and I finally said, well, I think I'll go. And I came, and I enjoyed it. And it made me feel good that I was able to be part of it. And it wasn't just a bull session. It was actually, we was doing things to help our fellow man and get closer to Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's what it amounts to, is trying to get closer to Christ and be more like Him.
So the last question I have is, can you talk to us about these games that you're a part of? They're talking about camaraderie. Talk to us about that.
That's the National Veterans Golden Age Games.
Okay.
And I tell you what, it's for veterans, no matter what kind of physical shape they are in. They're 55 and older, handicapped, wheelchair, blind. Now, when you see blind people out there playing horseshoes, you got somebody standing beside them saying, well, you threw a little bit right, you threw a little bit left, a little bit harder, a little bit softer. And they actually can compete. And most of them can do probably better than the guys that can see straight. And it's fantastic to get all them vets together, and you can tell war stories and tell them about the times you was in the service, and that camaraderie makes it just, it's fantastic. When we went to Des Moines, Iowa. There was close to 2,000 vets there. One of them was 93 years old and out there competing. We had people in wheelchairs, them little powered scooters out there bowling, throwing horseshoes, cornhole, basketball. They have 3-on-3 basketball, and you see a bunch of people out there in their scooters trying to dribble that ball and control that scooter at the same time. And it's just, and they come from all over the United States. All the states, Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico. I mean, if there's a vet there, they can get there. And it brings joy to my heart to get around them people so much.
So, last question. I know I said that last time.
Okay.
But, in the book of Titus, chapter 2, it talks about older people, and which I would consider myself that, spiritually mature people,
Right.
setting a good example for the younger men and women.
Yes.
Is that important to you? And if so, why is that important?
Well, I think that is important because so many of the younger people can be led astray so quickly and get with the wrong friends, and they're not friends, they're just people dragging in others to do the wrongs that they're doing and have somebody doing wrong with them. And I went that route, and I know exactly how it goes, and it don't lead in the right direction, I'll put it that way. And so you have to lead those young ones and teach them what's right and what's wrong. And teach them not to follow those wrongs. And if you can keep them coming to church, just get them here and let the church lead them. Let them make friends that's into the church and that has already accepted Jesus Christ, and let them lead them and help them out. Let them have them friends that's in the right direction.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. It's just, I know it's a daily struggle to not, I used to cuss my head off, okay? And I'll let the word slip now and then, and I'll admonish myself for doing that or getting mad over some little incident. And I said, this is the way that Christ would do this. Barney, you need to straighten out, man. So I might have to kick myself now and then, but I don't have to kick myself as much as I used to.